Like any game nowadays, there are settings you can change. In Overwatch, you can change settings ranging from video and sound to key bindings for each individual character. In this video, I'll quickly go over what I have for my settings and briefly go over what the majority of the settings do. If you're not interested in the explanation of the settings, then you can go to 4 minutes and 45 seconds to see the settings that I have chosen. The settings I recommend in this video are purely for performance. So with that out of the way, let's get started. So we're just going to go down the settings in order, starting with the display mode. The display mode is pretty much what type of window you'd like to run it in. The three options you have is windowed, full screen, and borderless windowed. The options are pretty self-explanatory. For best performance, I would use full screen. Target display is pretty simple. It's which monitor you'd like to display the game on. Resolution, you should set this to 1920 by 1080 at 144 Hz. If you don't have this option, it's because your monitor doesn't have a high enough resolution or refresh rate. In this case, you'll likely just want to set it to the highest option that you have if you can run the game well. If you have trouble running the game smoothly, you can downscale it to 1280 by 720 in order to get a bit of a performance boost. Make sure your field of view is set to max at 103. Field of view is simply the amount that you can see. At the lowest setting, it looks like this, and at 103, the max, it looks like this. The higher the number, the more you can see on your screen. The aspect ratio should be good at what your default is. It's simply the ratio of the width to the height of your screen. 16 by 9 should be fine. VSync, with VSync on, it'll prevent something called screen tearing. While this option may look the game look more pleasant, it will add input lag to your game, which is something that we do not want, so keep this off. Triple buffering, think of it similar to VSync, don't want it for the same reason. Reduce buffering, this controls the number of pre-rendered frames. If you're able to get a pretty high FPS count, then I would consider turning this on to reduce input lag. I'm not sure if this still happens, but be careful when alt-tabbing while you're playing. You may find that the game slows down a bit and you'll have to turn this option off, hit apply, and hit it back on in order to fix this issue. Like I said, I don't know if this problem is still within the game, but if you alt-tab and you feel like the game is running slow, then this might be the reason. Display performance stats. This is fairly simple and self-explanatory. With this option on, you'll be able to see how the game is running. By opening the Advanced Performance Stats tab, you can tick on and off which options you'd like to look at, and they'll show up at the top left corner of your screen while you play. If you find it distracting or don't really want it or need it, then you can simply just leave it off. Display system clock, again, this is pretty simple. This will show the time your computer is displaying at the top right of the screen while you're in game. Limit FPS. This option will limit the amount of FPS you can get in Overwatch. You can put this option to custom and pull this all the way to 300 if you'd like, and your FPS will pretty much never be capped in game. You'd probably wonder why you'd ever want to cap your FPS, and the reason you'd want to do this is to keep the amount of input lag you have in game consistent. The more FPS you can get in game, the less input lag you'll feel. The idea of limiting it is so that the game runs consistently throughout all stages of when you're playing. This makes the game feel more consistent overall. If you want to get the most consistent FPS, you could play a few games and try to monitor the FPS you're getting and limit it to a number at which you don't fall under. Otherwise, if you have a good computer, you can just leave this at display base if you're lazy. Graphics quality. The options listed in the graphics quality tab are just presets for the following settings. Switching between them will simply switch the overall look of the game but will hinder performance. I recommend that you just leave this at low, and we can switch any of the following options manually. Most of them will be left at low anyways. Render scale. Leave this at 100%. Anything higher, you won't really see a difference and it will decrease your FPS, while anything lower will make the game look pixelated and unclear at times. Everything else here should be left at low with dynamic reflection set to off. Turning these options higher than low will make the game look better in trade for performance. The names of the settings below are fairly self-explanatory from the name of the option. If anything, you could always Google what each setting does, but for the most part, it just makes the game look a tad better in sacrifice for performance. So with these settings, this is what the game looks like. Again, these settings are optimized for performance. Here's a quick look at what my exact settings currently are. Hopefully, with these tweaks to your settings, your game should be running smoother. I'm the CheesyGamer, and I will see you guys in the next one.